Welcome to the Collecting Data Using SARA app video. This video covers how to use the Stream and Rivers Assessment Hub, or SARA app, which is used to collect all Lotic AIM data. This video discusses the basic functionality of SARA along with best data entry practices. For more information, including troubleshooting the app, consult the Lotic Technology and Applications Manual. The SARA app is a FileMaker application. To open SARA, first open FileMaker Go application, and then select the SARA folder from the Device tab. This will then open the app to the main menu. The SARA home screen contains several options that are used to collect and manage data. Options are listed in the general order that they are used. The Collect Data button opens a new site, while the View/Edit Previous Data button returns to a pre-existing site so that data can be viewed or edited. Collected data can be synced at any time by uploading it to the National AIM team, using the Upload Data via Wi-Fi, or View Upload Status and Confirm Final Data buttons. The View Site Summaries and Photos buttons are used during the photo and data summary review following each trip. This video covers the first two buttons of SARA, the Collect Data function, and the View/Edit Previous buttons. The first screen that appears within the Collect Data function is the Add or Remove Contingent Indicator screen. Lotic AIM sampling is broken up into core, covariate, and contingent indicators. Core and covariate indicators are collected at every randomly selected AIM site the first time it is sampled, while contingent indicators are only collected at certain sites. The appropriate indicators are selected for a given site using the yes bubbles on this screen based on the indicators listed in the Design Management spreadsheet. SARA also has 3 pre-programmed modifications that can be selected. The Alaska modification applies to all Alaska sites. More bank stability plots allows more bank data to be collected, and the subset of core indicators option applies to special circumstances where only a few of the core indicators need to be collected. Once this page has been moved past, it cannot be accessed again, so if a mistake is made, the site must be restarted. Once indicators are selected, the next screen in the Collect Data function is the verification page. The verification page is the first thing users fill out when they reach a site. On this page, users can fill out the project they are working under and the site code of the stream they are sampling from a list under each dropdown. The stream name and date will auto-populate when the site code is selected. If the user does not see the site code of the stream they are sampling listed, they can add the code to the list by selecting the Add button and filling out the site ID, stream name, and project for the new site. Next, the site status and site designation fields can be filled out, followed by whether the point coordinates were moved and the latitude and longitude of the point coordinates. To get the latitude and longitude, the Earth icon can be highlighted and SARA will auto-populate the coordinates using the iPad's GPS function. The iPad's Wi-Fi must be turned on for this to work, but it doesn't need to be connected to a network. Then, the user can add their names by selecting the Edit Values option in the dropdown. Once the names are added, they will be available in the dropdown in the future in the SARA app. Finally, if the site is sampleable, the button to collect the initial bankful width measurements will appear. To enter bankful widths, the user must push the Add Bankful Width Stations button, and 5 fields will appear under bankful width. Once these measurements are taken, SARA will automatically do the math to calculate the reach length and transect spacing. At the bottom of the verification page, there is an arrow to pan to the comments page by pressing on the black arrow. Users should use this page to make any pertinent sampling and access comments. There are also areas to select the weather conditions and whether the reach contained any signs of beaver activity or water withdrawals. The verification page can be visited as often as needed during sampling. Once the verification page is filled out, the other pages along the top of the screen can be viewed. These pages represent the different types of data that will be collected throughout the reach. Data collection is organized into 8 pages that can be selected in the top bar. The page that is currently being viewed is highlighted in blue. Lotic AIM data are collected in a series of passes through a reach, and the pages are organized to facilitate the most common workflow. Water quality and bugs are always collected on the first pass. It is then common to collect all transect data in one pass, flood-prone width, and slope during another pass, large wood, and pools on the last pass. In general, each page should be filled out fully before jumping to the next one. However, some flexibility exists in workflow. Photos can be taken at any time during data collection using the Photos page. All photos should be taken using the SARA application so that photos are automatically named and sent to the National AIM team with the rest of the data. Select Tap to take photo, then select Camera to open the iPad camera. Photos can also be taken and drawn on using the Photos application within the iPad. These photos can then be uploaded into the app using the Photos option. Within the Transects page, data collection is also organized by workflow options. When the Transects page is selected, it will give 3 workflow options: collect only physical habitat data, collect only visual estimates, or collect all transect data. The user can then select the option that allows for the most efficient workflow for a site depending on how difficult it is to walk up and down the reach and the number of people collecting data. Once a workflow option is selected, data can be entered in any order, and pressing the Enter or Next button will automatically direct users to the next logical field on the screen. Users can move around freely among fields and subpages for a given transect. Subpages include the bank, canopy, and substrate, which are physical habitat indicators, and the vegetation and human cover pages, which are visual estimates. Transect buttons on the left-hand side of the screen can be used to move between main transects or intermediate transects. However, if the user is collecting the ThawWag contingent indicator, then mid-transect buttons no longer appear next to main transects and are instead accessed in the ThawWag subpage within the Transects page. Side channel transects are accessed on the Bank subpage. Once the information on the Bank page is filled out in the side channel section, the Collect Data option can be selected, and SARA will open up the side channel data pages. Within each page, SARA contains many checks to ensure that collected data are complete and accurate. For example, SARA contains missing data checks that notify the user if they move on to another transect before completing data collection at that transect. The current page can either be revisited to fill in data, or the user can move on to the next page and missing fields are highlighted in red. Users should return to fill in any missing data. If the data cannot be collected, flag the missing measurements with N, which stands for Not Collected, and provide a comment. If an entire transect of data is not collected, the Flag Not Collected button on the Bank submenu will populate this flag for all fields at that transect. Prior to flagging a measurement as not collected, data collectors should attempt to estimate measurements where appropriate. If the field is estimated, an E flag should be used. Consult the Data Management Protocol for which measurements can be estimated and what appropriate comments are. For example, a transect may be inaccessible because of extremely dense thorny vegetation, so some measurements, such as bankful height, may not be able to be collected. However, densiometer measurements can likely be estimated as 17, indicating that there is 100% overhead canopy cover. To prevent users from skipping monotonous fields and to save time in the field, SARA also has various auto-population features. For example, on the large wood page, the No Pieces Within Bankful button will populate zeros for all size classes of wood at the transect. The values can still be changed for each measurement by clicking the plus button. If a different value other than 0 is already filled in for a size class, this will change the value that was previously entered. There are many similar buttons for other indicators. In addition to missing data checks and automation, SARA also has checks on the range of values entered. Legal checks will not let data collection proceed until the current value is fixed. This is applied to data that can only be within a certain range of values, such as pH. For example, if 15 is entered into the pH field, SARA will display a dialog box stating that pH can only be between 0 and 14 and that a value in this range must be entered. SARA will not allow any other action in the app until this value is fixed. Certain values also have rules placed on them by protocol constraints. These rules are cross-validation checks and are used to make sure that those entering data are using the protocol correctly. For example, the bankful height can never be higher than bench height. If bank full height is entered then higher than bench height, Sarah will not let any other values be entered until this is corrected. The Lotic AIM protocol places minimum requirements on the number of transect data and indicators collected. However, users have the flexibility to exit data collection for a site at any time, even if data is not complete, by clicking the Waterdrop Main Menu button in the upper left corner, and then clicking Main Menu in the dialog box. For example, this may occur if data collection occurs over the course of 2 days. However, prior to exiting the site, slope and pools must be recorded whether they were collected or not. After exiting a site, a message will appear notifying the user that a copy of the data has been saved and exported to the iPad in the format of an XML and CSV. Users can return to data collection after exiting by using the View/Edit Previous Data button on the Sarah homepage. On this screen, the project and either the date, the site code, or stream name, or all three, can be entered to search for the data that Sarah has stored in the app. Sarah will then give the number of records it has matching the search, and the desired site can be selected by pressing the Review and Edit Data button at the bottom of the screen. Sarah will then open the site and the data collection can resume. Once data collection is complete, users should select the main menu icon again. The Finish Site button will run the final QA check. This final QA check will flag any fields that are still missing at the end of data collection and are not appropriately marked as not collected. It will also flag outliers for certain fields. For any outliers, users should try to recall if there is anything unusual about measurements at those transects. The user should remeasure, omit, or flag the value if they do not feel confident in the measurement. Hyperlinks can be used to return to specific fields to resolve any issues. After resolving issues, the final QA/QC page can be accessed again by pressing the Return to QA button in the top right-hand corner of the screen. When the user feels that data were collected accurately and completely, the main menu icon in the top left-hand corner should be selected again. Sarah will ask for reasons why there are QA violations along with the initials of the lead data collector. Sarah will then store the final QA check and export another copy of the data to the iPad in the format of an XML and a CSV, and then return to the home screen. Until data is submitted as final, data can still be viewed and edited using the View/Edit Previous Data button. This concludes the video on how to collect data using the Sarah app. Remember that the Lotic Technology and Applications Manual also contains more specifics on topics covered in this video. To learn more about the other functions of Sarah and how to backup and submit data, watch the Data Backup and Submission video. To learn how to download Sarah and set it up for the field season, see the Downloading and Updating Sarah video.